This is probably one of the most exciting aspects of SEMA for me personally. We are this close to the Hoonicorn. So as many of you know, the 4-rotor has the identical suspension geometry as this vehicle here, built for different purposes, but what you can see is how wide the track width is on this car. Now, what is nice about that is this isn't meant to be just extended wide body and leave it at that. It is geometry meant for this width of a car. This is over 60 inches wide track width, which means the center of the tire to the center of the tire on each side of the car. That is extremely wide, much wider than the stock RX-7. What you'll see is, if you look at my 4-rotor, you'll see that this tire offset and everything is almost identical to this. I had to do the geometry to work that one backwards, and obviously we went with Boston's instead of 1552s. You've got the same amount of lip, same amount of offset in both. Some other particular interesting things is that both of these cars, a Ford Mustang and a Mazda RX-7, both have Corvette brakes and Corvette wheel hubs. Of course, this is all-wheel drive, so you've got drive shafts in the front that are custom and all of that. But if you look at the brakes, they're a brake kit off of a Corvette. Another aspect of this build that's very interesting compared to mine is that the length of the car, particularly the wheelbase, is much longer than mine. The thing that works to the benefit for this vehicle is the transfer case. In my car, we actually extended the vehicle another 8 inches to fit the entire drivetrain in it. The transmission, the 6-speed sequential that's in here, is meant for rally racing, Dakar, off-road, craziness. But some of the cool facts about this car versus mine. 1, the top speed on 6th gear is actually 150 miles an hour at the wheels. So, of course, that wouldn't work for me because we're going for top speed records. But with a 26-inch wheel, the outside diameter of the tire, you've got 150 miles an hour. I'm aiming for 250, so there's a little bit of disparity there. To put this car's width in perspective, it is almost identical to my brother's 12C. So it looks extended because the old Mustangs were more narrow, but the 12C has very similar track width. Kind of crazy that this monster vehicle looks much wider, but it's not that far off from a supercar. I might be at the back wheel, but that really doesn't matter on this car. All 4 wheels, all 4 rims are the exact same, which helps for replacing them when he's shredding rubber, because this is a 26-inch tall tire. It doesn't matter exactly the details, but as long as it's 26 inch, this car is going to hum perfectly fine. The rim, as some people like to roast you for saying, is a 10.5-inch piece of metal, and the rubber is 295. One of the most iconic parts of the interior is both the handbrake and the shifter. His shifter looks like a handbrake, but it's really to manage the 6-speed sequential transmission. Mine is pneumatically controlled, so we're going to use paddle shifting, but ultimately I could have the same type of shifter. The e-brake locks up, of course, one set of tires, the rears, but it decouples. There's a decoupler on the rear drivetrain, so that way he can basically lock the rear brakes up, decouple the power from them, and run in just a front-wheel drive, kind of limping its rear along while he's shredding rubber. It's kind of a cool system. I don't have the decoupler in my car, but it's giving me a lot of reason to do it. So, a couple things going on. When you pull that e-brake, more than a normal car, he's actually diverting power in and out and around the whole vehicle. Not only does this car share suspension geometry with mine, but it also shares some emotional connection as well. Just a week ago, they began filming Gymkhana 10, or at least a portion of Gymkhana 10, in Detroit. So quite a few of my friends saw this thing doing crazy stunts, ramps, and backward slides all through the cities of Detroit. Here's some of the behind-the-scenes footage of that happen. More information about this car is found in a Speed Hunters article made several years ago. You'll see the guy that helped design the initial mock-up, as well as the whole build process. One of those things that I didn't know until I read the article is that what's left from the original Mustang is really just the roof. Everything else is custom metal, custom sheetwork, as well as custom carbon fiber. But the finest or the most expensive piece on this car that's custom is actually the dashboard. The dry carbon fiber dashboard is meant just for this car. It doesn't fit anything else. Not so well known fact about this vehicle is who built it. What people see is Ken Block's car, and the Hoonigan guys, of course, conceptualized the idea initially, but it was Vaughn Gittin and his team at ASD, including Ian Stewart, who's probably the genius behind it all, building a car like this. So Ian Stewart was the one that engineered it. That man is a legend, at least in my world and in many others, because he was involved with the guys, Rod Millen's team out in New Zealand long before he came over to the States. Rod Millen is infamously known for the only other all-wheel drive RX-7 in existence, doing all the Pikes Peak and hill climbing stuff. So it was Ian Stewart who came up with all the suspension geometry. It was Von Gitten's experience on the track to help tune that. Those guys worked together with a variety of other people to make this thing come to life. Another random tidbit about this vehicle is that it didn't start out turbocharged. Most of the original guys know that, but the turbos now have the exhaust exiting out of the hood, where before it was out of the extractor vents behind the tires. Those still look awesome and they still extract heat, but they no longer serve their original purpose. So if you want to get more technical about the 4-rotor, its geometry, and how it relates to this car, check out our Patreon. It's a lot of people supporting our build videos that go deep in depth about all of our CAD, our engineering, and where it all came from.